At 8 o'clock in the morning, 6 police vehicles entered the grounds of the Wood Farm estate in Norfolk. It was the 66th birthday of the estate's owner. The man who had once been called the Queen's favorite son, who had traveled the world on first-class aircraft and shaken hands with presidents, was led out of the house in handcuffs under the glare of television cameras. His name is Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Until October of last year, he was Prince Andrew, Duke of York, brother of King Charles III, the first member of the British royal family to be arrested in hundreds of years. In an official statement, the Thames Valley Police Press Office did not name the detainee, stating only that a 60-year-old man had been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. However, within 20 minutes, BBC, The Telegraph, CNN, and Al Jazeera began live broadcasts with the headline, "Britain wakes up in a country where a member of the royal family is sitting in a police cell." On the same day, King Charles III delivered a brief statement. "I express my deepest concern regarding what has occurred. The law must take its course."
I express my deepest concern regarding what has occurred. The law must take its course.
It was the last public remark from Buckingham Palace, brief and cold, like a sentence being passed. After 11 hours, Andrew was released under investigation. This means he is not under formal arrest. No charges have been filed, but the suspicions against him have not been lifted. The investigation continues. How did we reach this point? The answer begins not in Norfolk and not in 2026. It begins in 1996, in a small office in New York, where a young woman named Maria Farmer first attempted to tell the Federal Bureau of Investigation the truth about Jeffrey Epstein. In 1996, Maria Farmer worked for Epstein as an assistant. She was the first, in official documents, to describe what was taking place in his mansions. Her complaint to the Federal Bureau of Investigation contained allegations of the production of child pornography, sexual abuse of minors, and the systematic coercion of young women. The Federal Bureau of Investigation accepted the complaint and did nothing. 10 years passed. In 2006, the Palm Beach Police Department in the state of Florida conducted its own investigation. Detectives interviewed 27 girls and women between the ages of 14 and 23. All of them told the same story. Epstein paid them $200 for a visit under the pretense of a massage session. After the first time, he offered additional money for recruiting new victims. The chain was alive and self-reproducing. Each victim became a potential recruiter. Prosecutors prepared a 32-count indictment: human trafficking, sexual exploitation of minors, coercion into prostitution, and organizing a criminal network. Had the case gone to trial, Epstein would have faced life imprisonment. Investigators considered the case devastating. Then Alexander Acosta, the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, intervened. In 2008, he concluded what is known as a plea agreement with Epstein, secret, and reached without informing the victims, which in itself violated the Crime Victims' Rights Act. Of the 32 charges, only one remained. Epstein pleaded guilty to solicitation of prostitution involving a minor, received 18 months in jail, and in reality spent only 13 months in custody. The remainder of the time he worked from his own office 6 days a week. Later, Acosta explained his decision during hearings in Congress. "I was told that Epstein belonged to intelligence and that the matter should be left alone. When asked which intelligence service, American or foreign, he did not answer." On January 30th, 2026, the United States Department of Justice published a final package of 3 million pages of documents related to the Epstein case. Among millions of emails, testimonies, flight logs, and bank records, researchers discovered correspondence with a recipient identified as the Duke. Until October 2025, Andrew held the title Duke of York. Now he is simply Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, without title and without royal duties. But in 2010, when these letters were written, he was the Duke, and he was corresponding with a convicted sex offender who had just been released from prison. One of the key emails is dated August 2010. Epstein had just completed home confinement following his first prison sentence. He writes to the Duke, "There is a friend who I think would enjoy meeting over dinner." The Duke replies, "Of course. I am in Geneva until the morning of the 22nd. That would be pleasant. Will she be with someone from you? Give her my contact details." In the context of this correspondence, Epstein is proposing to introduce the British prince to a young woman whom he personally recommends. The Duke's reply indicates that he understands the mechanics of such an introduction. It was not the first such exchange. Then, in early February 2026, other letters surfaced, far more explosive. In them, the Duke forwarded confidential reports from British trade missions to Epstein. One of the forwarded documents was marked confidential and contained information about the United Kingdom's investment negotiations with states in the Middle East and Central Asia. From 2001 to 2011, Andrew held the official position of the United Kingdom's Special Representative for International Trade and Investment, effectively an informal ambassador on economic matters. He attended closed negotiations and had access to commercial and diplomatic intelligence. Under British law, trade envoys are required to maintain strict confidentiality, as explicitly provided by the Official Secrets Act of 1989. Violation entails criminal liability. The new documents record correspondence from precisely the period of his tenure, how he shared with Epstein the contents of closed trade briefings, reports on negotiations with Asian governments, and information about potential British investment projects. Investigators from Thames Valley Police began reviewing these materials in early February. A request from the Federal Bureau of Investigation to transfer additional data to British police had been sent on January 28th. In parallel, Scotland Yard was awaiting information from American counterparts regarding Andrew's alleged participation in events at which minors may have been harmed. On February 19th, Andrew's 66th birthday, Thames Valley Police conducted searches simultaneously at two of his residences, in Berkshire and in Norfolk. Andrew himself was arrested in Norfolk, where he had been compelled to move in early February after King Charles III demanded that he vacate Royal Lodge in Windsor. The issue of transferring state secrets is only one layer of the scandal. Another, far darker layer consists of sexual allegations that have pursued Andrew since 2019. Virginia Giuffre, one of Epstein's principal victims, stated under oath that Ghislaine Maxwell trafficked her to Andrew for sex when she was 17 years old. Giuffre described 3 encounters with him in London, New York, and on the Virgin Islands. According to her, everything occurred without consent. In 2022, Andrew settled her civil lawsuit out of court for a sum reported by sources to be approximately £12 million sterling. He did not admit guilt and did not issue a public apology, stating only that he sympathized with Epstein's victims. The court accepted the settlement, and the case was closed in civil proceedings. But a closed civil case is not a criminal one. Giuffre's testimony remained on record. The new Epstein files published in January 2026 added hundreds of pages, correspondence, schedules, and testimony from security staff and employees that document Andrew's contacts with Epstein in far greater detail. This time, Thames Valley Police publicly confirmed that, alongside the investigation into state secrets, it is assessing information regarding possible sexual offenses. An additional and already public nail in the coffin of Andrew's reputation was his interview with the BBC in November 2019. The presenter, Emily Maitlis, questioned him about his relationship with Epstein and about Giuffre's testimony. Andrew insisted that he did not remember Virginia Giuffre and did not know how the photograph of them together had come into existence. His explanation regarding meeting her at a nightclub was as follows. He allegedly is physically unable to sweat due to a medical condition resulting from the Falklands War, and therefore Giuffre's description that he was profusely sweating while they danced was false. He also stated that on that day he had dinner with his daughter at Pizza Express in Woking, and therefore could not have been where Giuffre claimed. The interview immediately became the subject of ridicule and analysis. Medical professionals disputed the claim of an inability to sweat. Pizza Express restaurants did not confirm a reservation. Crisis communications specialists described the interview as the worst public relations decision in the history of the British monarchy. 17 million viewers in the United Kingdom watched it, like a catastrophe unfolding live. After the interview, Andrew lost all official duties. More than 800 organizations severed ties with him. But at that time, no criminal prosecution followed. The central location of Epstein's network was the private island of Little St. James in the Virgin Islands. It was commonly referred to as Epstein Island or Pedophile Island. The area was 75 acres, with a villa, guest houses, underground structures, and a dock. Testimony from more than 20 witnesses, now included in the published files, describes the same pattern. Young women were brought to the island under the pretext of a photo shoot, employment as an assistant, or a summer internship with a billionaire. On the island, their passports were taken. Then what happened was what they described to investigators for years. The island staff, cooks, housekeepers, security guards, gave testimony that formed the basis of the new materials. One employee, Alfonso Rodriguez, who worked there from 2004 to 2006, stated under oath, "Everyone knew everything. We saw the girls. We knew they were not 18. We were paid well and told not to ask questions." A posthumous search of the island in 2020 discovered hidden video cameras built into the walls of bedrooms and bathrooms in the main villa. This confirmed long-standing suspicions. Epstein systematically recorded guests without their knowledge. The recordings evidently served as instruments of blackmail. Part of the video material published in January 2026, 14 Hours, was immediately partially withdrawn by the United States Department of Justice after publication, with the explanation of erroneous inclusion in public access. What exactly they contained has not been officially disclosed. Ghislaine Maxwell, daughter of British media magnate and alleged Israeli intelligence asset Robert Maxwell, became the chief operational manager of Epstein's network. She was convicted in 2021 and is serving a 20-year sentence in a United States prison. But the new files revealed a scale of her activities far exceeding what was proven at trial. According to testimony from several witnesses, Maxwell regularly traveled to countries in Eastern Europe, Romania, Hungary, and the Czech Republic, with a single purpose: to find girls from poor families and recruit them for Epstein. The typical scheme: Maxwell or her agents would appear in small towns, offering girls from low-income families work as a model or assistant in New York or London. Good pay, accommodation covered. After the flight, the girls found themselves in Epstein's mansions. In the same documents appears the name of Ehud Barak, former Prime Minister and Minister of Defense of Israel. According to sworn testimony and flight records, he flew several times aboard Epstein's aircraft in the company of young women. Barak acknowledged acquaintance with Epstein, but denied any knowledge of his crimes. Among the strangest discoveries in the new files is a draft financial ultimatum to Bill Gates. The document, found in Epstein's archives, contains a detailed scheme for pressuring the founder of Microsoft with a demand to pay $100 million. Gates long denied close ties with Epstein. However, the published materials indicate that there were several personal meetings between them, including at Epstein's mansion on Fifth Avenue in New York, and that Epstein apparently possessed compromising material on Gates, which he used for leverage. The nature of this material has not been officially disclosed. Gates denies blackmail. On August 10, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was found hanged in his cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York. The official version is suicide. Questions arose immediately. Cameras in the unit were not functioning during the critical period. The recording was damaged. 2 guards on duty that night were asleep and did not conduct rounds, a direct violation of instructions. Epstein had been removed from suicide watch shortly before his death, despite allegedly having attempted to take his own life shortly before. Medical examiner Michael Baden, hired by Epstein's family, conducted an independent autopsy and stated, "The pattern of injuries to the cervical vertebrae is more consistent with homicidal strangulation than with suicidal hanging." The official New York City medical examiner disagreed. From the 3 million new pages, it follows that at least 800 video recordings from prison cameras were unavailable or damaged, including the very minute missing during the critical nighttime period. This is not an equipment error, it is a systemic failure. Explanations from the prison authorities have still not been provided. Given that Epstein could potentially have testified against dozens of the wealthiest and most influential people on the planet, the theory of assisted suicide remains widespread among former investigators, journalists, and even some American legislators. 3 million pages have already changed history. Millions of pages still await their analysts. And for the first time in 30 years, since 1996, when Maria Farmer went to the Federal Bureau of Investigation and was met with silence, it seems that the system is beginning to provide answers. How many dukes, presidents, princes, and billionaires will still appear in these pages? The coming months will show. That is all, friends. A new update is coming soon. See you soon. Goodbye.